and welcome to the Chronicles of Yarnia, the podcast for Montclair's local yarn store. I'm Amanda.
I'm Jen.
I'm Kathleen, and not with me.
It's me, Haley.
And remember to like and subscribe to our podcast down below. You can hit the alarm bell, and it'll send you notifications, theoretically, when we post.
Last week I sent it out on Monday instead of the Friday before, for a lot of reasons. But anyway, so that by hitting the little bell when you subscribe, that lets you know when podcasts come out. And they should also show up in your subscriptions on YouTube. And then, let's see, other places to find us. On Ravelry as Shop Yarnia, on Instagram as Shop Yarnia, and Kathleen's been doing an awesome job with getting new posts up on Instagram. I have posts queued, but they never quite make it up. They will. And then, let's see, Snapchat as Shop Yarnia, which I still haven't been doing. And then Facebook as Yarnia LLC. And whenever we're closed or, like we are today, because it's Labor Day, we put all that information on Facebook and Instagram. Perfect.
So for the first time, I really have the feeling that Jen and Amanda have had all the way along. Just being alone and talking to the camera. It's definitely different and a little weird, but I'm sure I'll be fine. So this is the part where we usually talk about around town, but Amanda and I were both on Knit Night last night. And if you're not already a Knit Night participant, I definitely encourage you to sign up and join us. We have a lot of fun. We were a pretty small group last night. I think we only got to about 9. Some nights we have about 20. 16 to 20, but it's a lot of fun. It's a nice way to get to meet people from all different places, so definitely encourage you to do that. But the reason I mentioned it is that Amanda was saying, yes, it is a podcast week, which I somehow got my schedule off, and she's got a couple of things for around town that are happening this weekend, so we definitely want to get this one up. So I know she's got that covered.
So let's see. The first thing to tell you about is some things around town. Wow, is Montclair starting to get busy now. I have 2 things to share with you. First is something that I noticed driving down the street that I'm definitely going to be taking advantage of, and that's the fall plant sale at Van Vleck. So this podcast I'm going to make sure comes out on Friday the 11th of September. And that's when the plant sale starts. So it goes all weekend. Similar to us, if you want to know when the plant sales are in advance, subscribe to their newsletter. They're great. Not only do they have plant sales in the spring and the fall, they also have so many great programs. For kids, like my kids have participated in some of their remote programs for kids this summer, which were a lot of fun and extremely well done. And then they also have classes and like yoga at the garden and things like that for adults. Sometime when I have more time, I was actually talking to a customer last weekend. I am ignorant when it comes to gardening. Like, I can plant plants in the ground and they generally sort of grow. But when it comes to I don't know, for some reason, they say plant these plants 12 feet apart or 18 inches apart. 12 feet, I mean 12 inches, right? Like you get pots at the store and you're like, don't plant them too close together. Then they grow and I've got like a bunch of dirt between all my plants and they never get like big and bushy like they do on the cover of the seed packet. So anyway, I think that's me and not the seeds, and definitely not the nurseries around here. That's me. But that's because I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know how to prep the soil. I don't know how to fertilize or when, or I've learned that I should put neem oil on my lilies because we have lilies in our garden in the back. When we had our backyard, we had to redo our backyard garden, and I'm awful, but I can plant bulbs in the fall. So I did put like a bunch of bulbs out there. So we have daffodils in the spring and lilies and other bulby things like black-eyed Susans. What are those that look similar to black-eyed Susans, but they're like, I'll put some flower pictures and the little purple spiky things. Right. Phlox. I like phlox. So anyway, but definitely on the lilies, I found out you need to put neem oil on because they get these little red beetles on them and they eat through all the leaves. They put holes in all the leaves, and if you don't neem oil them, then they'll put holes in all the flowers, and that's just not cool. So they don't hurt you. You can just flick them off, but like they'll eat your lilies to shreds. But if you neem oil them like every other week starting in May or whenever they start coming up and having leaves, I normally remember it when I see the first beetle. I'm like, Jeff, we need to neem. Well, this year I was pregnant and I didn't want to like get around anything chemically. So I was like, Jeff, you need to neem oil the lilies. But usually that's something I can totally do myself in a normal year. Which seems like every other year has been a not playing in the garden year, which also probably contributes to it not looking awesome. But my point is, I want to go to Van Vleck and take one of their classes, their adult classes on like how to garden. Yeah, because they have some excellent gardeners there. And I want my garden to look like lovely, and I don't mind spending some time a day in it, but not like 3 hours a day in it. So I need some mix of plants that's a nice 20 minutes every day. Do what you need to do, have a schedule, I have instructions, then I can take care of it. But anyway, so that's the first thing. Plant sale. Today, Friday, September 11th through the 13th on Sunday. So check out their website. I'll have put it down below earlier in this segment. And make sure to see about all their social distancing rules and if you need to sign up or anything like that. But it'll be great. Go check it out. And the second thing is coming tomorrow. See, I've got like all these things this weekend. So one of my friends, Kathy Stevenson, is opening a new business in Montclair, and I'm so happy for her. I'm proud of her. It's Strongholistics, and it's at 105 Grove Street in Montclair, and they are having an open house tomorrow on September 12th. So if you're interested, be sure to check out Strongholistics, all one word. I'll have put that here as well, on their Facebook site, and it has all the information and like the link to sign up for a 15-minute spot to come by and see what their new spot is like. They're going to have some little raffle prizes for folks who enjoy their, open house next weekend. Their socially distant open house. But I made her something for her open house raffle. Yay! But definitely wanted to share that with you guys. So you'll see that in finished objects. I have something to share with you from that. But also I'm super excited about Kathy's new business. My last pregnancy with Charlie was when I met Kathy, because everything was great, mostly, through, I'd say, 31 weeks or so. And then, what did I do? I went to the gym I went dancing, because I ballroom danced. I ballroom danced on Tuesday. I went to the gym on Wednesday. On Thursday, I flew with my daughter to Iowa to go to a college visit. We walked around her campus all day on Friday, flew home on Saturday, and worked a full shift at Yarnia first thing Saturday morning. And then I couldn't get off my couch on Sunday. Oh my goodness. My back was a disaster. Oh my goodness. And I usually, for those of you who may have seen me at Yarnia before on bad back days, I deal with it. But this was couldn't move. I was in so much pain. And I was 32 weeks pregnant, and what are you going to do? But on Saturday, I had a customer at Yarnia come in, and I was getting chiropractor recommendations all day long, and to be honest, like, I was a little nervous to go to a chiropractor when I was pregnant, you know what I mean? Like, you just don't want folks necessarily messing with your body in ways that you're not used to, or maybe they don't see pregnant people every day. But one of my customers, who was a nurse midwife, came in and said, go see Kathy. So I did, and she's a miracle worker. So, like, I couldn't believe it. And so, I mean, she wasn't going to do anything like super intense while I was, pregnant, but she got me walking upright again. And I kept seeing her at least once a week throughout that pregnancy. Afterwards, and she does like physical therapy. She'll be doing acupuncture at her new location, as well as like nutrition and herbal therapy. So like a very holistic, way to think about health. But just, oh my goodness, let me tell you, if you need somebody to take care of your body, she's an expert. I don't know, I call her my back whisperer, so like through Kathy, I've started doing Pilates this whole pregnancy, and like I feel fine, which is really weird because last time I did not feel fine the whole time. And it's great. I don't know. It's like, yay. So, and like, seriously, there's a lot of things sometimes you can deal with, until you do for a long time. And then you find people who just know how to fix it. And fixing isn't overnight, right? It's not like, magic button and you're better. But my goodness, after a few months and you like progressively get better, you're like, oh, I can't believe I waited that long. So yes, super saved my last pregnancy, and I honestly has proactively saved this one. Yay. So yay. So that was, that's all my new in town stuff. What's going on around Montclair?
Anyway, I've been a little bit swamped these past couple of days because today, in fact, the day I'm recording this, is the first day of school in our town, Montclair. And so I have just finished supervising, I use that term loosely, my 6th grader who is working inside in our dining room, and my 1st grader who's hanging out on the porch with me, so everybody has their own space and all that fun stuff. But the first day actually went really well. I was terrified about how it was going to go. So this is, I guess, a little bit of what's going on around town. Because I'm sure what's going on around your town is also a bunch of kids are going back to school. And I don't know if you can hear them, but my children are about to interrupt me so they can figure out how Minecraft is working on the Switch. Or maybe they won't interrupt me. Oh, good. They're going somewhere else. First day of school went great. There were some tech issues. There's going to be tech issues a lot. They are going back full-time remote right now. And with the hopes that maybe at some point they'll go back to school, like in person for hybrid, maybe. I don't know. But anyway, I was really pleased with the 6th grade team that my older son had. He did a great job. They did a great job. Anyway, and then my 1st grader has a fantastic teacher who I know a little bit, even though my older son did not have her. She's great, and I was super excited to see her, and she did a great job leading the team and teaching the kids how to mute and unmute, and a lot of them already had experience with distance learning from the spring, so it was surprisingly good. Again, we had some tech issues, but you know what, everybody's getting through what they can. So If your guys are back to school, good luck to you. If your guys are back to school in person, I'm so jealous. I can't even stand it. And if you don't have kids and you're working from home, good luck to you too, because that's stressful too. So it's, it is what it is. We gotta live with the hand that we're dealt, sadly. So anyway, the nice thing I am looking forward to is that maybe now with synchronous learning, I will actually be able to get some knitting time in during the day instead of hovering over children saying, click here, click here, click here. They can both be a little bit more independent. That would be awesome, because I feel like I don't think I lost my knitting mojo so much as it just slowed down a lot. As Amanda and Kathleen can show you, they have a lot of finished stuff. I don't. But I'm trying to think of what else is going on around town. I have a couple of things going on around town, which is on Sunday, I will be teaching our first online sweater class. The class itself is sold out. Sorry. But they're my guinea pigs. So if it goes well, we'll be offering more. I hope it goes well. I'm very excited for it. I'll talk a little bit more about that when I get to works in progress. Let's see what else is going on around town. Oh, my kids are starting their tennis lessons on Sunday. I'm very excited for this because they both play tennis. They both like hitting the ball. They're both actually pretty good at it, even though Ollie just started. So I'm really excited to kind of get back into the swing of a routine, which we kind of missed this summer. And I don't know if they felt it, but I certainly felt it. So we're going to start that. And then I think the week after that, soccer starts. So that's going to be really awesome. I'm super excited for them to get out of the house and go do that too. That would be great. I would like them to get out of the house. I would like them to go run around. I would like them to be really tired. I'm sorry if I'm talking about my children a lot, but oh my God, it's been all day, every day for 6 months. I'm done. Anyway.
Let's see. Now we're in finished objects. I have a lot. And remarkably, they're all blocked. All ends are woven in, so they're actually finished. Except for one, which is not entirely finished, but you'll see what I mean. It's mostly finished as much as I'm going to get it finished right now. Okay, so first, for Kathy's new business. Like I said, she's having an open house tomorrow, September 12th, 105 Grove Street, and she has raffles. So this is Amanda, Kathy's friend, not Yarnia as a company, is sponsoring a gift for Kathy's business. So I personally bought all the stuff to knit with, and I'm including a Yarnia gift card because I figure folks if folks like my hand knits, maybe they would like to knit for themselves. And we have things at Yarnia too that aren't specifically for hand knitters. But anyway, I was watching a podcast on Friday night, and oh my goodness, I was so inspired. I was watching Arne Carlos' podcast on YouTube. And if you haven't been following them for the past month or so, they have been taking us on their summer vacation through Lofoten, I think that's the name of it. It's the northern part of Norway, above the Arctic Circle, where it's daylight all the time. And just sharing with us the places they're staying, the sights they're seeing, and things like that. And of course, sometimes pop in with their hand knits and things like that, the interesting things they're finding along the way. But they visited a fishing village that had a gift shop in their fishing museum that had the traditional Norwegian Islander sweaters, which is it's a pattern that's super it's like a work sweater in Norway, and Skandir has reimagined Islander that she did last year as one of her patterns, which is just gorgeous. I would love to do it someday, but it's in fingering weight, and it's whole fingering weight sweater. So I haven't done that yet. But Arne and Carlos reimagined the Islander into a hat. Now this is a Reine Hat. Reine is a village in Lofoten, something like that. Right. So Reine is a village there, so it's named after a village. Their version has these larger blocks with little dashes, which is almost like the traditional Islander pattern turned sideways. And sort of like this is not copied exactly how it is, but the pattern is a black and white, very graphic design that has larger, they're not dots, but larger dots and smaller dashes throughout the pattern. And this is reimagined, and it's reimagined in such a cool way. And once I started looking, Arne and Carlos, they just released this pattern, but this is similar to some like fashion industry collaborations they did back in the 2000s. And so super interesting. They have a whole podcast on this hat and the different influences that went into it. But I just think, I like saw this, I was like, I love this hat. It's so cool. It's a great graphic design. It's not too busy. It's totally unisex. And it's like, I just love it. And look at these decreases, right? Like this is very nice design where everything is just beautifully decreased. Here's a photo of it, or here's the top. I've actually blocked, like I said, I've blocked my stuff today. Where it just goes out in fours, right? On the top, like that's some beautiful decreases. Super nice. So it doesn't just like decrease in that spiral pattern that we often get. It's well thought out. Like I feel like you could easily pick this up in a ready to wear Bloomingdale's or, you know, something like that. So this is knit in 2 colors, and this is the original yarn and colors of the hat. This is knit in with 2 colors of Rowan Alpaca Soft DK. I use the Simply White and Simply Black, which is what the pattern's in. Now, Arne and Carlos say you can get 2 hats out of 2 skeins, like one the white with the black and the next one the black with the white. I'm somewhat skeptical. Let me measure how much white I have left. So if I have left, they're 50 gram balls. So if I have less than, what, I don't know, 15 ounces, then that's not going to be, not 15 grams, and that's not going to be possible. And I used quite a bit. But I do have a lot of black left, and I'm thinking, so this is for the raffle. I'm thinking for me that this would look awesome in black with like a light pink hand dyed, like a Mad Tosh Scout, or something like that. So stay tuned. I think I probably have some light pink in my stash. Even fingering, right? You could double fingering. But just a note on like the construction, like is this hard? No. It is stranded colorwork. So you need to know how to cast on, knit, and purl. I think this would be, you could do this as a first colorwork if you're ambitious, because it is a very consistent pattern. You don't have to worry about catching floats anywhere, but you do have to know how to deal with 2 yarns at one time. So, and it's very, when I read the pattern, I was like, how's that gonna make this design? But they're brilliant. It totally does. Very, very cool design. I love it. So this is the Reine Hat by Arne and Carlos. I finished this. I started on Saturday night and I finished it Sunday noon. Yay. Yay for DK hats. Yeah, and I just love that. I have another Arne and Carlos thing a little bit later in this podcast. So, yeah. The second finished object that I have. I showed you just the very beginning last time, right? I was about here. I was working on a sweater for Eric. That's my 6-year-old. And he specifically wanted a red sweater. So, yay. But he came to the store. We were actually looking at the Rowan Alpaca Soft DK in the color Tea Rose, which at the time we only had 3 balls of left. I think I have some on order. But it's great, but I wanted to start. And so I asked him to take a look at what we have in stock. And he picked Scout, Kelborn Woolen Scout, which I really love and which has such deep, rich colors. I think it's a great option for this sweater. So this is Anker's sweater by PetiteKnit. Let's see, I'll hold it up here. I'm blowing up. The sweater's not. That looks great. Yeah, so you can see it's kid-sized. It's got this like 1x1 rib up here on the top. And then it's quite a basic sweater. You've got a few raglans. I also would say that like if you're looking for a first sweater, a great sweater for a kid, but you're not like super experienced with sweater knitting, this is a great one. I really found the pattern super easy to follow. I mean, I've done a lot of sweaters, but even so, I think even by relatively beginner standards, it's pretty easy to follow. You get yoke increases the way you do with circular yokes, and then you do have some raglans here. So you would learn both of those skills, raglans and circular yokes. And then it's just stockinette with no shaping down here in the body, which of course conference calls. A little 1x1 rib on the bottom. And I would have finished this in a week. I started it on a Tuesday. I would have finished it on a Tuesday, except I got to the end. It's hard to say. I think I got to the end of this sweater. Oh yeah, you can see it on the end of this sweater. Sometimes things show up, and I notice other podcasters talking about this too. Sometimes things show up on the camera that don't show up when you're looking at it in real life, and vice versa. Like things look stripy in person and then you can't see it on the camera, but you can see where I ran out of yarn right here. I finished the whole sweater, other whole sleeve, was almost done with this, and had one more decrease and like 12 rows and then the end to go. So I had brought another skein of yarn home, but I hated to break into another skein of yarn for like 5 grams of knitting. That's just ridiculous. Not to mention it would take one off the shelf, and Scout is on back order now until November. So I'd much rather you guys have it if you want it. But fortunately, I was on knit night on Wednesday and I was like, oh, I ran out of yarn. And Jen's like, I have some left over. Yay! So she had some from her project. She did just like maybe 15 ounces tops, but just more than enough to finish that little sleeve. And so it's a slightly different dye lot. I think this is gonna sort of wash out and blend together with wear, and no one is ever gonna notice. I could barely, like when I'm looking at it in sunlight, I can barely tell anyway. But anyway, this is the Scarlet Heather color of Scout by Kelborn Woolen. So I'll give you an up close of this shoulder with a little garter ridge coming down from there. Yay. See, 1x1 rib. And PetiteKnit has this pattern obviously for children. And she has it in a lady size. So if you really like this pattern, you're like, I love that, but I'm not 6 years old, then you can make it for yourself. Also DK weight. Literally same pattern, but like size to fit a lady instead of a 6-year-old boy. Yay! Anker sweater by PetiteKnit. And the very last finished object I have today was this close to being finished on the last podcast. But I was nervous. So my last one is Embladress by Tina Hauglund, which I showed you last time, and Tina, like PetiteKnit, has also taken this pattern and made it available not only for babies but also kids and adults, and she's also put it on this pattern on all sorts of accessories, so you can really have a whole Embla stuff design. Now, like I've mentioned on the last two podcasts where I've talked about this pattern is only available in Norwegian, but never fear, Google Translate is here. So all you have to do, you can purchase and download the Norwegian pattern, copy paste into Google Translate, and up pops knitting instructions in English. Magic! Actually, it's AI. But yay for artificial intelligence, and crowdsourcing, I guess, translations of knitting, but they do an excellent job of translating knitting designs. So I had no problem with this, and I did not read Norwegian to knit it. I read the English translation in Google Translate. But yeah, so this is a little baby onesie. It's called Embladress by Tina Hauglund. This is little finished object number 1 for baby to be. It is super cute. It's got like this little yoke. It's almost like a, yeah, see? It's got this little yoke design. Little design on the sleeves. Little design on the feetsies. And I knit this out of phenol garn. Rama phenol garn. 3 colors? Yes, the navy, the white, and the medium gray. The white and the medium gray I had left over from my Demjakalopa, which we are finished with our knit along for Demjakalopa. I have not closed the Ravelry thread because I know there's some folks that are still knitting on it. But we are going to have our steeking party soon. So I'm going to collect everybody who is ready to steek, and I have my Demjakalopa to steek. I know Evelyn has hers. I think Karen has almost ready to steek hers. And I'm going to steek my little Embladress as well. So we might have some more, and we might have some virtual. We'll see. But that should be fun. I'll put that at the end of a podcast soon. But all I had left last time was to pick up these button bands, and I was a little nervous about it because when I did my Demjakalopa, I don't think I did it entirely right. Not that it was horrible, but I knew I could improve. So I asked, well, we were on knit night and Jen was sort of coaching me through it because I was like, you should do a tutorial about it. But what she recommended to me, because just like on Demjakalopa and with many, many steek garments, right? You have these 5 stitches in the center which separate the right side from the left side. And the way it works is you have your knit, right? You knit all your stitches. And you have 1 purl stitch, 3 knit stitches, 1 purl stitch, and then continue knit. Yeah. So those 2 purl columns with the knits in between, those delineate where we're going to cut, right? We're going to cut right in between all of these. And it also tells you where to put your button bands. So I don't know exactly what I was trying to do last time, but Jen said you're looking to go to the column outside the purl bump, right? So you want the purl bump to be right inside, and you want to catch 2 stitches each time you dip in, 2 stitches of the column directly adjacent to the purl bump. So yeah, like you're seaming vertically, like a mattress stitch. But that's how you pick up stitches. Those 2 stitches that you would pick up if you were doing mattress stitch, that's what you're picking up to put on your button band. Each pattern is different, how many stitches or how many, per per you're picking up. So in other words, if you pick up 2 out of every 3 stitches or 3 out of every 4 stitches, that's usually in your pattern. And if it's not, Jen and her tutorials that I linked last episode give you some rules of math on how to figure out what you're supposed to do. But yeah, so based on our chit chat on knit night, I decided I would try it on a conference call, and yay, I think it looks pretty good. So yeah, I put these button bands on here. So I call them button bands out of habit. They're not actually button bands. I'm going to put snaps on them. I got some heavy-ish, not heavy duty like you'd put on like a leather coat or something. But I want something reasonably sturdy, that baby's not going to be able to unclip. And so yeah, I'm just going to put snaps on it because I like snaps better than buttons for babies. Easier for me, stays snapped. So yeah, the steeks here, and then each of the legs steek open for easy changes. And now my Embladress is done, aside from our steeking party and snap assembly. So I'll give you a quick update when that's done. But yay, 3rd finished object. I've been busy this week. All right.
Hi again, it's Kathleen here with a finished object. And it's what I'm wearing. It's my Soldotna. So it's actually a refinished object. I'll stand up and try not to bump the table that has the camera on it. Basically, I made my Soldotna originally. Whoops, pillows. I made it originally pretty much as the pattern said, with about 10 inches of positive ease in the body, and I just was not happy with it. I've talked about this one before. I worked on it while we were on vacation a couple of weeks ago. So I ripped it all the way back to the color work, and basically had to undo the sleeve bindings, undo the entire body. And pretty quickly, almost by the time we were home from vacation, or a couple of days later, I finished redoing it. And I'm so glad that I did. And really the reason I'm talking about this is just to say, if you ever have a finished object that you're really not that thrilled with, even if you've worn it a couple of times, give it another chance. See if there's something that you really want to do to alter it, because I'm sure I'm going to wear this a lot more than I did when it was in its original form. So that's it. I just encourage you to make your finished objects the way you want them to be. All right? Take care, and I'll be back with some whips.
Anyway, let's move on to finished objects. Once again, I have nothing. I have a bunch of larger projects that are in the midst of doing stuff, and so I haven't yet finished. So that was real quick. I don't have anything finished object date. I mean, I did finish my needlepoint, but I still haven't blocked it. Have I finished anything else? No, I have literally not done a cast off in like months. But let's get to works in progress, because works in progress is actually pretty cool. Let's start with my work in progress, my summer sorrel, which I'm super psyched for because I am past the yoke divide, you guys. I'm past the yoke divide. So right now it is inside out, because that is the beauty about this sweater, which is reverse stockinette, and in the round, which means that I am not purling an entire body length of fingering weight sweater. Not happening. So the instructions actually tell you how to do it. So you are knitting the entire stockinette body, and then you're just going to flip it inside out. So I'm turning my work inside out right now so I can show you guys how awesome it looks right here. It looks like a little crop top. I'm sure someone younger than me would actually wear it as is. Maybe like another inch. So I divided for the sleeves. I cast on my stitches, and I'm working stockinette. So I'm super psyched for that. I left in my right side, wrong side marker from the beginning. And yeah, it's great. It's going to be a scoop neck. I did not try it on when I was supposed to. Bad me. Don't do that. Remember, do as I say, not as I do. Don't do that. Try it on. Try on your thing. I figured, you know what? It'll be fine. I will figure it out. I also, I guess I kind of tried it on. I held it up. But generally don't do that. So I'm working through. I'm still on my second skein. I will definitely hit my third skein, I think. And I'm still trying to decide if I want it slightly cropped so I can wear it with dresses, which, let's be real, is how I'm going to wear it. Or if I want it like maybe mid-length. I definitely don't want it like hip length. I think I want it a little bit longer. But like it's probably going to get to the point of the length will depend on when I get really tired of knitting and decide to go to the rib. So I will be doing that. At which point also it'll be a little bit easier to try on. I'm going to do the sleeves last, which makes sense because then I don't have to make a decision about the exact length of sleeve, like a true 3/4 or like bracelet length. It's going to be somewhere in this range. And it's good that I don't have to make that decision, but the bad part of it is that then there's this solid chance it might end up like my Comfort Fade cardigan, which is still sitting in my living room over there in a project bag with no sleeves. Still, Amanda is going to yell at me for that, and Kathleen is just going to roll her eyes at me. I know, I can tell right now. So that's one work in progress. My other work in progress, I just picked up yesterday. It is a bag of yarn. It is, in fact, a bag of Rowan felted tweed yarn, DK weight, in color 205, the very descriptive 205. I don't know if you can see. It goes quite well with what I have on my couch. So this kind of like army forest green with tweedy flecks and got a little bit of orange and blue in it. This is what I'm knitting for the Mariechen sweater class that I'm teaching. So I'm really excited for this. Rowan felted tweed has colors by Kay Facet. Facet? Kay Facet? I don't know how you pronounce his name, but I can spell it. So it's beautiful color. It's 50% wool, 25 alpaca, 25 viscose. So it's actually a really wearable tweed. It's not going to be too hot. The Mariechen is a cardigan by Isabell Kraemer, and it has like a lace front with a little bit of faux cable detailing. I'm super excited to do this class with my students, and I think it'll be great. It's a fun sweater. I'm looking forward to it, and I think it'll look really great in the Rowan felted tweed. I think it'll be a really wearable sweater. And look, guys, it's not gray. I'm making something that's not gray or teal. I mean, it's green, which is my third choice, but it's not gray and it's not teal, so it's green, which for me is a neutral. I wear green a lot. Let's see what else. So that sweater class is going to start up this weekend. I have yet to do my swatch. I have told all of the students to do their swatch for the first class, but I have time. I have like 2 days, 3 days, 2 days, 2.5 days to basically bang out the swatch. So I'll probably do that during either tonight or during class time tomorrow, Friday, because I'm recording this on Thursday. And it should be good. I am looking forward to seeing how this works up both in stockinette, which I've seen how it works up in stockinette, both in stockinette and also in the pattern. I am going to do the swatch in both, but I'm only going to do the swatch in both because I want to show folks what the pattern looks like, and I'm not actually measuring my stitches over pattern. I don't really care for the very rare pattern that tells you to do a swatch in pattern and then try to measure your stitches over that, because it's really hard to do that. And because cables are a form of ribbing, so they will draw in. They're alternating knits and purls in vertical columns, so that it will naturally draw in even when you're twisting them. And lace tends to open up a little bit, but some lace is ribbed based, so it'll close up, and garter stitch based versus stockinette based. So while it's really good to know what your gauge in pattern is, so you can say lengthwise, like in pattern, it might be 15 inches wide, but in stockinette, that yarn is going to be 16 inches wide because your pattern draws in. If you're doing a gauge swatch to see what needle size you're using in order to choose the size that you're making, or to swap in a yarn that is an appropriate gauge for your pattern, you always want to do it in stockinette, because then you can compare apples to apples. right? So if you have a pattern gauge for a sweater in yarn A, right? One yarn, and it says 5.5 stitches an inch on size 5 needles. And then, or 4 needles. Let's go with size 5. With size 5 needles. And you want to swap in felted tweed or, your choice of yarn. The way you can tell if a yarn will work is to swatch it and then see, what does it take for you to get 5.5 stitches an inch? Does it take you a size 5 needle? Does it take you a size 4 needle? Does it take you a size 6 needle? Does it take you a size 3? Sometimes it takes me a size 3. I'm a loose knitter. Tight knitters need to go up a size. The number that your needle size is doesn't matter. What matters is your stitch gauge. Are you getting that 5.5 stitches an inch? Now, the other thing, and this is kind of a little peek of what we go through in sweater class and what I kind of will just ramble on forever about, is that when you're measuring gauge swatches, I don't want you to sit there and be like, okay, so I'm supposed to get 5.5 stitches an inch, and they measure it over 4 inches. So I'm going to cast on 5.5 times 4, which, oh my God, this is going to be hard. 22 stitches. I did the math in my head. That's impressive for me. So you're not going to cast on 22 stitches and work back and forth in stockinette to see, hey, does that measure 4 inches? Because listen, I can make 22 stitches of anything measure 4 inches. Whether it looks good or not, it doesn't make a difference. What I want you to do is I want you to cast on a larger number of stitches than your gauge is. So cast on 30 stitches. And then work your swatch for a little bit in the needle that's recommended in the pattern, or preferable, the needle that's recommended on the ball band of the yarn. And then do a row or 2 of garter stitch, just knit back and forth to give a couple of ridges, and then switch needles. Go, if it feels a little bit too dense, go up a needle size so you give your stitches some space. If it feels a little bit too loose and airy, go down a needle size to tighten them up a little bit. And then you have 2 options. So once you've cast off for your swatch, I want you to measure how many stitches per inch dry, no blocking, and write it down. And then you wash your swatch the way you're going to wash and block your sweater or your garment or your shawl or whatever you're making. The way I do that is I fill a sink with water. I put a little soak wool wash because I like how it smells. And I dunk it in and let it sit there for 15 minutes to kind of just chill out, and everything moves around and everybody gets all happy in the bath. And then soak is no rinse. Also a big fan of that. So then I take the swatch out, I squeeze the water out, and I lay it flat to dry, making sure I'm not pushing it all around. And then when it's dry, I measure it again, and I don't measure the size of my swatch. I measure out 4 inches in the middle of my swatch and count how many stitches are in those 4 inches. So then you have your kind of dry gauge and your blocked gauge, and you can see if they've changed. And if they've changed, you can see, does the yarn grow? Does it shrink? Does the row gauge grow? Does the row gauge shrink? When you have all of that information, you can know, all right, listen, this yarn grows in length when I wash it. So if I want a sweater that is 14 inches, I need to stop early. Otherwise, I'm going to end up with a sweater that's 16 inches. So for under, right? So that tells you a lot of what you need to know about your yarn and about your fabric, and it's really helpful. So the number of times where people are like, how do I know if this yarn is going to work for me or work for the sweater? The correct answer is to swatch it. It's not an answer that anyone likes to hear, but swatching tells you, do you like the color? Do you like the way it works? Do you like how it feels knitting wise? Maybe it's better for a different project. Maybe it's great for this project. You can see how things are going, and it'll also give you a good way to determine an accurate size. Because if you don't get gauge, then your sweater won't fit the way you think it's going to fit. There's all kinds of ways to go about adjusting that involve a lot of math that I can't do at the top of my head. So that's my little speech about gauge. In other words, do a gauge swatch, which I am not doing yet. I'm going to do it tonight. So that is my What is that? That's my work in progress.
I am not currently in Montclair right now, and there's not really great setup, so I hope the lighting's okay, and I hope you can hear me. This is really much weirder than normal because I'm actually talking to myself. But hello, I'm here to show you my progress on my rainbow sweater, which I had started last time, and I had like this much, just a few rows, and right now I'm on the second color. I used the entire skein of the knitted wit. I hope it shows it nicely. And it's really just so pretty, the brightness of it, and like even like the darker colors still have like a really nice hue to them. And so I transitioned, I did like maybe 3 or 4, I think I did about 6 rows of like transitioning the colors and like mixing them together. And so that means like I did the knitted wit once I had decided like once I had like separated for the sleeves. I decided, okay, I'll do a couple rows of knitted wit, and then I did like knit like the last row of knitted wit. I added in this one, which is the Socks That Rock rainbow. I'll make sure that the colorway is in the description. And so I did the knitted wit, and then I added in the back on where my marker is, like right in the center of the back, because it's pretty, like you can't really notice it. And then I did, like I alternated every other yarn for like 6 total rows, so 3 rows of each yarn. And then so far this is like all of the fabric of the Socks That Rock, and it is working so much. Like I thought it would look good because the idea of like the fading and like adding in more white, I thought it would look really good, but I just love the tones that are in this so much, because it almost looks like, in the skein, it almost looks like a crayon, kind of, like I feel like you could call this like Crayola magic or something like that. So I'm really, really liking it, and I was also a little bit worried that the thickness would be too different, because this seemed pretty, in the skein it actually seemed thinner, but working it the first couple of rows when I was doing the every other, it seemed a lot thicker than the knitted wit, but you really can't tell, and it's so nice to work with. So the knitted wit is just gorgeous. So I'm very excited how this is turning out. It's turning out very easy too, because the only modifications I've done so far, like it's not even basically a modification, I just did 1 increase stitch at the edge, like once I had connected and like made the sleeves section, I did 1 increase like here and here, so because the other sweater, the color blocked one, is a little bit tight in the chest area. So I was thinking, we'll see if 1 increase is enough. I could do more, but I haven't tried it on like frequently, so we'll see. But I'm really excited. It's going to be so nice. The fabric is really, really nice of this, and so hopefully we can get some of the knitted wit Love is Love in the next order. Fingers crossed. So yeah, like right now it just looks like a t-shirt, but I will add sleeves, and I saved like 10 grams of the knitted wit just to blend with this once there's like once it's time to do the sleeves. But I have like a light blue in my stash that I'm thinking maybe see how the Ancient Arts looks, and either do like the cuffs and like the bottom of the sleeves like a white, or that light blue. So we'll see. I'll keep you updated. That's my project. Thanks for watching. See you soon.
On works in progress. I have several works in progress I'm not going to show you because I didn't knit on them. I didn't knit on my Helen Stewart Stillness shawl at all. I need to find my lace knitting focus time. And recently I've been like knocking out some of these projects. I want to get things done for some reason. So yeah, I haven't been working on that. I have not also been working on my Rowan felted tweed blanket. It's so close. Clue 3 is so close. But we'll get done. And when it does, I will show you, but not until then. And I also did not do anything else on my Comfort Fig Cardi. Those 3 have been in hibernation this week. Yeah, because I've had other things to do. Or this last, yeah, these last 2 weeks. I haven't really done anything on any of those. So I'll show you when I get to them. But I do have 2 works in progress to show you that I'm super excited about. The first one, I sort of revamped the blog. So when we switched websites, if you haven't been over to check out shopyarnia.com recently, our website changed. So the old one is gone. I don't even know how to access it anymore. And we have a new one, but that means all the blog posts from the old website are gone. So I don't have any of those, and our blog was completely empty. So I had seeded a couple of projects in, or a couple of posts in there, but I'm going to try to post. I'm not promising frequently, but like once, maybe twice a month. Maybe like one content post and one like this is collections of specific things that I really like. So we'll see. But the blog is back. I am going to do it more. I already have one post queued up, and I posted one last week. And what I posted last week was about my daughter Beth's sweater, Vogue knitting sweater. So I made her from about 2 years ago. On the cover of Vogue was a sweater that was done, it was chunky, sort of dark and moody, and was done with 3 strands of Cascade Luminosa held together. And let's see, and it was like, it was pretty cool looking. So I made it. It didn't work out well. I made like the smallest size too. And it looked like a huge black big bird. Like this, it was just like the yarn was so heavy for the construction. There wasn't enough like structural integrity. Does that make sense? To the pattern? Like there were, and it was seamed too, but it was still so heavy. Like every piece was heavy. And it just like stretched and weighed, and it didn't work. Once you got it on. I have a picture of Lily, my 3rd daughter, wearing it. I'll pop that in. Actually, it's in the blog. Go check it out on the blog. I'll link the blog below. So after taking a look at it, well, actually, Beth took it to college. She wore it for 2 years. She wore it winter before last, during that polar vortex winter when it was like 40 below where she was in school. And she did actually get a little frostbite on her nose. She wore it like all the time then. And I mean, you gotta get one thing, alpaca plus, it's like a Cascade Luminosa is like blown alpaca inside of a core. Which at the time that it came out, that was like one of the first yarns that came out that way. Now we have a lot more. We actually don't have any Cascade Luminosa in the store right now, but we've got several. Like that's now the cool hip thing to do. Have a core of like nylon or something like that with yarn blown into it. Alpaca silver is done that way, which would be really cool to do this in. We've got you could probably use maybe 2 strands, maybe even one of the, what is it, Moonshine Stargazer brushed. But all of those, have this sort of similar construction. Cascade was a little bit heavier, on the heavier side of that. It was fine. And people loved it, and we sold out of it, which is why we don't have it anymore. But it was just, that was not working. So after 2 years, and like she plays cello, and the sleeves were like long and floppy, and it didn't like work. So she brought it back this summer, and finally one day I was like, we're going to take this sweater apart. She's like, what? I'm like, no, seriously, I made it. I can take it apart. So we unpicked all the seams, and then I started it. I'd like unpick my bind off, and bind offs are a little bit tricky to unpick sometimes, like, and especially with alpaca or this kind of blown fibers, they sort of stick together a little bit. They felt a little bit, and it had been worn for 2 years, so I had to pick them apart. But then I gave them to her, and she went to watch Doctor Who all afternoon and rolled all of the sweater back up into balls. Ta-da! So, if you have a sweater that you're frustrated with, you don't have to stay frustrated with it. Just take off the bind off, wind it back into balls, and make something else. So that's what I was talking about in my blog, is what we did with that. And this week I cast on the sweater that's going to replace it. And it's going really fast, obviously. I mean, it's knit, this is knit 3 strands of, well, they say worsted. I wouldn't call this worsted, maybe DK, maybe, anyway. 3 strands of Cascade Luminosa, whatever it may be. Maybe it's worsted. Anyway, held together on an 11, so very bulky. Which honestly means that my hands get tired knitting it, and I have to take breaks every once in a while because my fingers are like, I'm used to knitting fingering weight in DKs, and then all 11s, it's like, muscular weakness. But this is the Montagne sweater, or it's just Montagne, by Melissa LaBarre. And so this is the beginning of it. You probably can't see it super well, and it's just a raglan. It has raglans. It has sort of like a broader neckline with a little bit of a brokenish rib. Yeah, and you'll see like this one, we held together 3 strands, silver, a blue, and a green. You could do this with all sorts of things. Yeah, you never, that's the good thing about, I mean, this would be a marl technically, right? I'm marling 3 of the same kind of yarn. But yeah, I mean, if that's one of the most fun things, right? It's just making up your own fabric. This is not something that the designer of this yarn thought up necessarily. You know, another designer was like, hey, I'm going to hold 3 of these together and have a multicolored and black sweater. So that's why I was saying I think the alpaca silver would look really cool, because that would give you like this, you'd have the shiny core, and we have a blue one and a red one, or is it a green and a red? That would look super cool. But anyway, and give a very similar effect. And might be even a bit lighter. I think their fiber is quite a bit lighter, like just weight wise, right? Like you still get all the insulation, but this is heavy. But yeah, so I started this off. I'll probably finish the body. This pattern has, after you knit 6 inches down from the arms, you have the option to put a pocket in, like a little kangaroo pocket on the front. It's really cute. Beth's like, I don't want a pocket. So I said, she's like, well, I'd love that. She actually said, I'd love that pattern if it didn't have a pocket. And I'm like, well, then I shall knit it with no pocket, because that's the great thing with hand knitting. If you see a pattern and you're like, I don't want a pocket, or I do want a pocket, guess what? You get to put it in. You're not stuck with what the designer said to do. I honestly like it with the pocket. I might do it for myself with the pocket someday, but not today. First, I'm going to finish Beth's. And then the very last thing I have to show you, I'm super excited about and very proud of, because it's not my primary skill. Obviously, we've been talking about knitting a lot, but I started a baby blanket. I started it in crochet. Yay! So I started the Atlanticus by Hooked on Sunshine. I'll show you what I did so far. This is the first, so this was originally released as a crochet along, and this is the end of the first clue for the crochet along. Those of you who have heard me wax romantic about Hooked on Sunshine before know that I love her patterns. I've wanted to do one. I wanted to do one as a crochet along this year at Yarnia, the way we've done crochet along blankets before. Last week we looked at my Rowan blanket, that was 2019's knit along. I really wanted to do a Hooked on Sunshine crochet along this year, but COVID. And so we can't get together on Sundays, Sunday in the mornings like we usually do, and you know, like all work together on it throughout the year. So, so we didn't do that. But I was gonna do Phoenix, which was released in I want to say maybe 2019, maybe 2018. But we had a customer that did Phoenix in Sugar Bush Bold, and it was spectacular. So yeah, so she did that in Sugar Bush Bold. That was the first time I saw Hooked on Sunshine's patterns. And I started looking at her patterns, and I love them all. So I was actually looking at Ardith, which is another one of her patterns. And Sarah actually came in on Saturday when I was at the store. She was looking at stuff. I was asking, because she's doing Ardith. She's also done Marnie's Garden, which is another Hooked on Sunshine pattern. She said that Ardith has a little bit bigger center circle, like center medallion design, which she liked a little bit better, but Phoenix was a little bit easier. So then I came home, I was sort of like debating, what should I do? But then I started looking, and I'm having a little boy, and I love Ardith, but Ardith is quite flowery, right? And I knew what I was going to do this in. So this is King Cole Cherished DK. It's 100% acrylic yarn. So this can go in the wash. It will actually look better after I wash and tumble dry it, because that blocks it a little bit. And this is in 5 colors. So this is the French Navy, Sky, there's a pale blue is like up here on the puffs, white, and silver. No wait, silver's on the puffs. The sky is like the background here. So I had these 5 colors. I knew that I wanted to do a Hooked on Sunshine. I think you've heard me that I love Cherished DK for babies, like, or grown-ups. Like, I think this would be an awesome family blanket too, because it is just like completely pill-proof and perfect and lovely to work with. But so I knew what I wanted to. I knew I wanted to make a Hooked on Sunshine pattern. I knew I wanted to make it out of Cherished DK, and I was just looking at the patterns and like Marnie's Garden and what was the other one I was talking about? Anyway, Ardith were too flower. The Phoenix I love, but I love it in those bright, like sunshiny colors. And I'm very much into blues, which I think it looks good in the blues, but for some reason I just want to do it in reds and oranges and yellows and white. But then I saw Atlanticus. And I like this for a baby boy, especially a baby boy born in December. So I think, you know, this is almost like a compass or a snowflake. And it just has much more of those like frosty, snowflake, compass, watery, nautical-ish look throughout the whole blanket. So I'm super excited about this, and I'm really happy with it. I'm happy with how it turned out. I can tell you, I have never done a front post anything, which is what all of these little things are. I have never done back post anything, which is what makes this white here and this, you know, sky stand out. And I have never seen video tutorials as good as Hooked on Sunshines. I did buy the video tutorial. I bought the pattern, the compendium, which is all the you know, crochet alongs all together, and I bought the video tutorial. Oh my goodness, excellent video tutorial. I have in the past done like Craftsy classes. That's where I learned how to continental knit, but this is even better. Like, Hooked on Sunshine has truly mastered the video tutorial. It's spectacular, spectacular. So I would highly recommend this. I would say maybe not for your first crochet piece, but if you've done a few crochet pieces, I knew how to, like, I've done the Toft kits, right, which is a lot of single crochet in the round. So I've done like this little center button, you know, start with a loop and done single crochets in those. So I've done that before. I knew how to do like 2 double crochets in the same loop to increase, or a little bit of decreasing. I knew the difference between single crochet and a half double and a double and a treble. And that's pretty much all my skills that I had before I started on this. But I've learned so much. And I think I'm going to keep learning so much and having those skills reinforced. Now, I'm not going to make this. This is like queen size throw. When it's done, I'm obviously not going to make it that big. I'm going to get to a certain point. I like my baby blankets to be about 36 by 36, maybe 38 by 38, somewhere around in there. And then, you know, put the edge on. But we'll see. But yay, I'm super happy with this. And you will see more of this Atlanticus in these blues and grays. Yay. That is Baby Boys to Be blanket.
Hi, it's Kathleen back again with some works in progress. And as usual, I have several active ones. So the first is my, I'm going to refer to my little cheat sheet here, my Wicked Simple Socks by Ashley McCauley. And I have posted about these on Instagram too. Haley and I are doing a Socks on a Rock challenge. We started on vacation. Hers were going much better than mine, but I finally have moved along. I've got most of my feet done. I think I'm within about a ½ inch of starting the heel. So Haley's away for a few days, so we're going to start our heels together when she's back. But one thing that I think is kind of a useful point to hear, if you're doing something like this with contrast toes and heels, the recommended procedure would be to choose a very similar weight of fingering for both the toes and the body of the foot. Not being a big sock knitter myself, I didn't really think about quite how different the 2 yarns that I was using were. But it became pretty apparent as I was working on the foot that even though my stitches were, you know, it was kind of at the same tension, the yarn was just enough of a difference in bulk that the socks were kind of flaring out a little bit and they were going to be too loose on my feet. So what I did was I ripped all the way back to my contrast toes on both socks, doing 2 at a time, the only way I will ever do socks. And I actually decreased 8 stitches across the width of each sock, 4 in the sock, 4 in the front and 4 in the back. And I had calculated to see what my gauge was, and I knew that that was going to give me something that was going to be a more comfortable fit. So that was worth doing. You can't even really tell. Certainly not a normal sort of thing to do, but I didn't really feel like starting them completely over. If I was going to do that, I probably would never finish them. So that is where I am with that. I do want to show you one other thing. I'm kind of doing whips, and not new in store in this case, but in store. I'm finally using a Coconuts product that we got way back when. It is the Coconuts Natural Mesh Bag. We have a few of them left in the store, and they're also available on our website. But I've been using it for these because it is so nice to be able to keep your 2 balls of yarn separate. So I've got my 2 little balls in here. This is all I'm carrying around right now. My contrast is in a separate bag because this has been going in my purse pretty much every day. And that's why I've made progress on these. And excuse the bangs, someone must be texting me. I think it's my friend Karen. Hi, Karen. So basically, by just carrying around this little bag with the nice little snaps at the top, you've got places for your yarn to feed out. It's a great little tool. I love it. So I've had it for a long time. Finally, I'm really using it. It would be great for color work too, for a small item like a hat or something like that. But anyway, just wanted to give a shout out to our friends at Coconuts for their lovely tools as always. The second thing I'm working on is something I just started on last night, during knit night actually, and it's a leaf. It's one of the things that is really fun about the new store, fun for me, is that we've got real windows with little, you know, platforms in them that we can make pretty window displays. So I've been having fun with that. Did our initial setup and then swapped out what item we had in our little scenario with the chair and the table and everything when we sold out of the yarn that was originally there, and when we had a new sample to put in there. And now I'm thinking about fall. Not quite fall yet. It's still pretty warm here. It was actually well into the 80s today, I'm sure, and quite humid. But, you know, thinking about fall, it's September. That always makes me think of fall. And so I'm working on some leaves. So this is using Nora Silk Garden. It is a pattern that is in the Timeless Nora Knit blankets, which actually, as of today, is in the store. And I think by the time you see this, will be on the website. So we had ordered these not too long ago, and this is the book that the Nora Silk Garden throw that I made is in, the To The Point throw. And it's got a lot of great patterns. It really does. And I think we are selling it for $16. So, you know, it's a great value. It's got a bunch of good blankets. And here is a picture of the blanket that uses the leaves. I'm just doing the leaves themselves because I'm just going to make them part of our window display. So I think that's a fun thing too, like looking at some patterns. And, you know, it probably doesn't happen too often for some people, but, you know, sometimes there's a component of something that you want to do. You know, think outside the box and see if there's something like that that appeals to you. It's like maybe you don't want to make a whole project, but maybe there's some part of it that you either do want to do as it is, or that inspires you to do something else. So that's it. I'm looking forward. And actually, one reason I did realize that, you know, during Knit, you can see there's a lot of yarn overs and things, and I'm amazed I got as far as I did actually talking the entire time. But what I decided was, since this was a written pattern, I was going to chart it. And I did start on that last night. But the charting software that I use is not terribly sophisticated, and I think I may wind up just doing it in Excel. I think that will actually be easier for what I need to do. So we'll see. I'm probably not going to make any more progress on this tonight. Then my third whip, which was also something I started on vacation, like my socks, is my Devonshire sweater by Pam Powers. It's a pattern that was originally in the late lamented Twist Collective. So that is what the sweater looks like. Hope I'm getting it in the right spot. It's a sweater I've made before, and I'm making it this time in Sugarbush Bold in Rockies, which is their black colorway. And this is something I've wanted to do for a couple of years, but because it is a completely black cardigan, with a lace detail, I decided it was something I really should work on in the summer when there was plenty of natural daylight available. And I've been, except for today where I was at the store till 6 p.m. and it was kind of gray and rainy anyway, I've tried to work on this, I would say, at least 45 minutes a day. And, you know, not so bad. I mean, it's been, I don't know, maybe worked on this little less than 2 weeks. So I just need to keep going. I just need to make sure I allocate some time every day to work on this while it's daylight. And before you know it, I will have a sweater. I am planning on doing the two fronts simultaneously and the two sleeves simultaneously. So the back is the only piece I'm going to be working individually. And this pattern is written for DK, but I'm doing it in a worsted, which will make it go more quickly. And hopefully all my math is right. We'll check. We'll see. You know, once this is done, I'll hold it up and make sure I'm still on track with all of my adjustments. So,
okay, now the very last thing I have to share with you is new in store. Now I'm thinking about breaking out this new in store segment to be separate videos on our channel. Tell me what you think of that down below. I was thinking, we sort of rush that in sometimes at the end of our podcast, and I was thinking it would be really fun to have them broken out. We can tell you a little bit more about the yarn company, whether it's, I mean, I think all the yarn companies that we stock are cool, from like Manos del Uruguay that has an awesome like social responsibility story, to Rowan, which has such a rich history in the UK, and then like Juniper Moon Farms, which has grown from like a small local organization, or, you know, local farm, and has like just completely expanded. You know, to dyers, you know, we have like Spun Right Round and their yarn and what's their story, and we have Feederbrick Farms, which has such a cool story. So like I can't even name them all. Like, they have such cool stories, and we never have time to tell them. And we do get like new yarns in, and we'll show you like, hey, this is the new Feederbrook, hey, this is the new Rowan, but we don't tell you like as much about the backstory or the other stuff in the line. So I was thinking about breaking those out, and then, you know, like if you're into what's new in the store, you can see those, like, especially if you subscribe, right? You'll see what's new like as it comes out, and you don't have to watch an hour and a half of video to get to what's the new stuff. And if you're not into like the shopping part so much and just like knitting with us, that's fine too. So let me know what you think in the comments below. If you're like, I hate that idea and I just want to have one podcast with everything, let me know that too, because that's super valuable feedback. And this is for you, so you gotta let me know, or I don't know. But I was going to tell you a little bit in that spirit of not exactly, so let me back up. We do have new stuff. I have 5 boxes of things in my living room that need to be opened and inventoried and photographed and put on the website, all that kind of stuff. It is not going to be done by Friday, right? I'm hoping to get through the inventory today and set aside the things that need to be photographed, but it's not going to be ready by Friday. And I don't want to announce on this podcast like, hey, brand new yarn and look at it, when you can't buy it, which seems a little weird. So we're going to hold off on that for 2 weeks, and I promise you will see it next time in one format or the other. Let me know what you think. But today I'm going to tell you about a yarn that's not new in store. It's old in store, but I still love it. And there's a new podcast episode by another maker that I think you would find really interesting too. And it's Arne and Carlos. I told you, I've been watching them. But they came out with a podcast about how they designed their Regia sock yarn. So I had never known this, and it was fascinating to watch. I don't know if our suppliers have ever told me these stories, but we carry Regia design line and by Arne and Carlos. So like they were saying, on each one that they've designed is their photo, right? And their signature. We have other Regia yarns as well. We have other Regia yarns as well that are not by Arne and Carlos, but we definitely have several that are. And they gave such a cool explanation of like, well, first of all, what inspired these. Like, let's see, I have a couple of lines here with me. So these two are perfect. So you can see these look plain on the outside, but they're not. Don't be deceived. On the inside, they've got like self-patterning yarn. And it starts with a solid colored cuff, goes into pattern on the legs. There's a solid color to do your heels, and it does pattern on the feet, and then you have solid to do your toes. And then this yellow bit, which, you know, folks are like, I don't want to knit with yellow. That's not to knit with. That tells you where the start of the first sock and the start of the second sock are, so that you can make them identical. Hence, perfect, right? So they were saying how they were inspired by these designs by, I think they were saying this perfect ones were by a sweater that they saw, like a traditional Norwegian sweater that they saw. So they designed these. And the way that they work is they actually look like, here, I'll show you on this one. It looks like you're doing color work. Yeah, it looks like you're doing color work, but you're not. The yarn is machine printed to do that. And it was just, I mean, maybe I'm a little bit nerdy, but it was just fascinating to me, like how the technical aspect of like how you tell the machines, or what feedback they get from like the engineers who are designing the yarn. They have the creative ideas, they design the color palettes, they get feedback from the engineers that, you know, like say, okay, not everybody knits in the same gauge that Arne and Carlos do. So this is what your pattern looks like at this gauge with this, or everybody's foot's not the same width around, right? Like I knit my socks on size, 2.5 millimeter needles. 2.5 millimeter needles, and I knit 64 stitches around. If I was knitting a flat sock, I might do 60 stitches around. Yeah, but not everybody does. Some people have, mine's pretty a medium foot, unless I'm pregnant, and then they're swollen. And I don't know if I'm going to wear my socks until after the baby's here. But, you know, like my husband, I probably need to knit 72 stitches, you know, or like I have one daughter who has a narrow foot, and she'd probably need more like 52 or 54. And so that's going to change if you think about it. Like if the yarn's pre-printed, it's going to change how the pattern looks. And so they consider that. It's super cool. So that was that. And then these, I think these are all the same line. Actually, they're all the same line. Like the design is the same. So these are not perfect per se, right? It's just printed all the way through, so you can start anywhere. If you want them to match, you would start at sort of like the same area in the yarn. But these all have the same pattern with different colorways. So they go through too, like how do you select colors that look good together. I wonder, this one, maybe not. I think, and I will say yes or no, whether I'm right or wrong. I think these are the ones that were inspired by Edvard Munch, which is who is like the most famous. He did the Scream, you know, Edvard Munch. Looks like Munch, said some Norwegian way. He did the Scream. This might be, I think this is the colors from that line. Or they talk in there, so you'll see, and you should totally watch the podcast. I'm going to link it below. But they talk about how they did a line inspired by Edvard Munch. They did one inspired by the way that, by icebergs, and the way that the colors on the icebergs changed throughout the day, right? So you can imagine like twilight, right? Morning, when everything's sort of reddish, middle of the day, or evening, right? And they're actually, I had never known, you know, there's, the names of the yarns are like fall night or spring morning, or, you know, which it didn't make much sense to me then, but now that I've seen them explain it, I was like, oh my goodness, that's so cool. They did another line inspired by the hills and the oceans. That has some really cool designs in it. So now I'm just like looking at these yarns with such new eyes. I wanted to share that with you. Let you know we have it. If you see the Arne Carlos podcast and you're like, where can I get that? We have quite a few colors. And now I just want to knit some of their socks. Which I think I'm going to switch to some. We have the Regia, we also have some Opal, yarn, which is German sock yarn, that I really love too, and we have the Zauberballs, the Chopel Zauberballs. Yeah, so I want to knit plain socks with all of them, but we'll see.
It's been good to talk to you, and look forward to talking with you again soon, and who knows, maybe we'll have Amanda, when she brought the books to the store tonight, we were saying maybe we'll get to do one together soon. Even if we have to wear our masks while we do it. We'll see. We will see. So thank you. Thanks for supporting Yarnia. Thanks for checking us out.
Yes, I hope everybody is staying safe. I hope everybody has a good back to school, or if you don't have to deal with back to school, be so grateful you don't have to deal with back to school. And in the meantime, you can like and subscribe down below. Follow us here on YouTube with our podcast. Also, make sure to check out our online store on our website, shopyarnia.com. And do not forget to follow us on Instagram as Shop Yarnia and Facebook as Yarnia LLC.
And we look forward to hearing your comments, seeing you in the store, reading your emails, responding to your emails, all of that. All right?
Take care. Bye.
Later. Bye. Hold on just a second. Amanda, cut here. Guys, stop talking. Thank you. I mean, feel free to put that in at the end if you want to, but like, anyway.